Everyone, we are live for another Freedom Builder Bootcamp Q&A session. I'm Greg Mercer. I'm joined by my co-host Rolando. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, Greg? How's it going, Freedom Builders?
Good to see you as always, and it's been too long. We haven't done one of these in a few weeks, and I'm excited to be back at it and answering all of y'all's questions. So, if you're not familiar with how it works, all you have to do is drop your questions in the chat box section, and Rolando and I are here to answer them.
Awesome. I can't wait to answer these questions. We actually have some already lined up from earlier this week. Just as you know, the process, typically a week before we go live, there is a spot where you could just start commenting and dropping any questions. We're going to take those questions first. They're higher priority, but then we'll breeze through them and start fielding the live questions. I also do have a little housekeeping discussion. Next week, I will be opening up my calendar for you all to provide some feedback on Freedom Builder Bootcamp. So just keep an eye out inside of the Facebook group. I'll be dropping my calendar. I've allocated some time in the morning and in the evening so that I can get all different time zones in the world. So yes, just make sure to, it's going to be on a first come, first serve basis. It's 15-minute slots. And I'll be able to get any feedback that you might have on your seller journey so far. So let's get to it, Greg.
Yeah, we see Andy
Now, the
and
first
Dan
question.
in the chat box. Hey guys, good to see you. And yeah, like I said, let us know what questions you have for us. In the meantime, we could answer some out of the comment section. You want to read the first one, Rolando?
Yeah. So it looks like Karina asks, I noticed FBA sellers talking about opening multiple bank accounts. Would you recommend having multiple bank accounts? If so, why? What are the benefits? I would personally, I avoid having multiple bank accounts. It's just a bookkeeping nightmare. As long as you're keeping your personal bank account separate from your business bank account. Now that may be what they may be referring to. Out the gate, I would immediately open up, even if you're going as a sole proprietor, then definitely open up like another checking/savings account. You don't need to be an LLC to do that. I think that's probably what they're referring to. Just keep your personal expenditures separate from your business expenditures from day one if you can. It'll be a bookkeeping nightmare if you don't do that.
All right, Rob said, I'm having issues with removing hijackers off my listing. I signed up through the IP Accelerated program and tried reporting a violation. A product is a counterfeit, but got this error. We can only process the submissions for registered trademarks added to your brand registry account and those enforceable in the jurisdiction of the selected store. Please add the trademark to your brand registry account. Trademarks added to your account that are pending approval cannot be used for your counterfeit submission. I mean, it sounds like what's going on here is the trademark just hasn't been registered into your Amazon brand registry account yet. I haven't personally taken advantage of the IP Accelerator program because I already had my trademarks registered before it was offered. So I'm not quite sure how that process works, but I would probably reach out to the lawyer who you hired for the IP Accelerator program and then also reach out to Amazon through the just the brand registry platform, just ask what's going on there. To be honest, the brand registry platform is like a little bit kind of buggy and janky. So I imagine there's some kind of this little glitch going on. You just need to reach out to them.
All right. Looks like Susan has the next question. It's a three-part question. So let's see how we'll tackle one question at a time, I guess. So last time you had your live coaching session, I said my order was in production, getting ready for inspection. The inspection failed due to many defects to the steel, including scratches, gouges, and dents. I've been working with the supplier, and they finally agreed after 2.5 weeks of going back and forth all through trade assurance to get the steel replaced. The supplier said they are sourcing a better steel. Per executed contract of May 15th, if the production fails a third-party inspection, the second party agrees to pay for a second inspection before shipping the goods. They will not pay, and I'm concerned with the quality of the product. The sample they sent looked good. The supplier always says the quality is good. How would you tackle that one, Greg?
Yeah, it looks like actually all three of these are kind of talking about the same thing, so I can kind of So I'll say this, the contracts or these agreements that you put in place with the factories in China, I mean, you should do this, and these are beneficial because you're kind of agree on the same thing or you're aligning on what the terms are. Now, at the end of the day, you're probably not actually going to like fly to China or hire a lawyer there and go after the factory to try to enforce these. I mean, maybe if it was a really big order that's tens of thousands or $100,000, then you would. But I'm guessing that's probably not what it was for your first order. So it's like it may, cost more to try to actually take this to the legal system and enforce it than what the whole order is worth. So I say that to say that it usually is beneficial to try to just work with them to come to kind of like a happy medium. I would probably say, or the other thing I'll just add to that real quick is I would say more than half of first round inspections fail. And they fail for different reasons, but oftentimes they're failing for like very small things that actually aren't really that big of a deal, or you might not actually get like a bad review for, or your customer might not be too worried about it. So, I mean, I would just, if I was you, think like, is this something that is going to like get me bad reviews, or these defects that I have just going to, or like kind of like, are they just not a big deal? So that's what you kind of have to ask yourself and decide on. I think that's kind of the best I can do to answer this question that you have here. Into your third question, the freight forwarder will wait, so that's not a big deal.
Excellent. Now, Sandy asks, my first product is almost here. Woohoo, that's awesome. Is
Congrats.
Amazon doing better at shipping that I should use FBA, or should I keep my products and send them FBM? I would say it's now a good time. Yeah, FBA. FBA.
Cool.
Go for it. Elvis says, is this the right place?
Yeah, do it inside the messages now, inside the actual live video. We'll jump over there. We were just waiting for some to pile in.
All right. Let's start tackling those questions. Looks like it's time. Yeah. I would say
All right. Dan says, how do I set up a listing in Seller Central for wholesaling? Would it be the same way as private label, or is it different? It would be the same. If the UPC or that SKU already exists on Amazon, then you're actually just going to be selling on the listing that's already created on Amazon. Unlike, say, eBay, there's only one listing on Amazon per UPC or EAN number. So if that's already in their system, you're just going to be selling on that particular listing. If it's not yet in their system, then you would create a new listing just like you would for private label.
All right, next question. Casey asks, have you guys come across Amazon error code 5665? Seems like Amazon is protecting new listing and brands, so we need a customized sample to get approved to create a new listing and then get an FN SKU number on the packaging. I think what you're encountering, and you could follow up on this, but you're trying to create a listing and it's asking you to enter the brand name if you are not brand registered. And this is a big one. You would want to put in/A, not applicable. And that's the workaround until you do get brand registered. And that's probably why you're getting that error code, is because you're putting in a brand that really that you want to pursue, and that's the name that you want, but it's not brand registered. So just put NA. That should solve that problem, and you should be able to create your listing as long as you complete all the other required fields. Andy asks, okay, I have a great idea, but it includes FDA approval. Competitor has labels on his box for it. What research or knowledge do you have for that process? Does the inspection companies help with this? Do the factories have to be FDA approved? So yes, typically your supplier should already have these various certifications, and you'll want to verify that your supplier should already have gone through this whole vetting process, and those certificates, it should be enough. Your inspection company will not. They will inspect the goods and they will verify and validate that. But I would say do your preliminary work, because you don't want to get to the point where you've got all your products manufactured and you're going through the inspection process and it turns out that it's a dud and it's not factual that these certifications apply.
Yeah, I'll just add to this real quick that depending on the type of product, the FDA approval process is very different. So as you can imagine, for like pharmaceuticals, this process is extremely lengthy, right? It can take years to happen. Other things like products that come into contact with food or drink, that process is much more simple, and the inspection companies are usually able to do that for you. So without knowing exactly what your product is a little bit harder to give like more specific guidance. But you should, I mean, your factory should be familiar with this. So you could start off just by asking them. I'd say that's step one. And then step two is I'd reach out to one of the inspection companies. Like, Rolando, I always forget the name of them. What are the ones that we have used in the past? Kima, K-I-M-A.
Kima.
Yeah.
QIMA.
Is the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. Kima is, I've had a lot of success with. It's a little more on the pricier side, but they do a very thorough inspection. It's just amazing, the report that they provide. And 9 times out of 10, going back to that question that was asked earlier, inspections are going to fail because they're going to be very detailed, and that works to your advantage. You can use that to your advantage because you could come back and you can renegotiate pricing. You can renegotiate different things. So I would say, don't be so scared if it just depends to what extent it failed. If you guys remember our jungle slider, when we did the $1 million case study and we were launching the jungle slider, it failed inspection, but it was to our advantage because we were able to renegotiate some pricing, and really they were minor things that we were able to resolve.
Dan said, if you find a product while doing product research that you want to sell, but it shows multiple variations, can I sell just one of them, or do I need to sell all of them? And you're welcome to just sell one of them. I would try to choose the one that sells the best. On some products on Amazon, Jungle Scout's able to tell the difference between the sales and between the different variations. I'd say that's now true for about half of categories on Amazon. The other half, there's no way to tell which variation is selling better besides going to the number of reviews. So you can go look at the number of reviews. You can see which color has gotten the most reviews, and that's an indicator of how much or which color or which variation has the highest amount of demand. So yeah, feel free to just start with one variation if you'd like.
All right, Tablis asks, hi, Greg. I have a product that weighs 6 pounds and it can only be shipped by sea. I'm afraid that this turnover is very slow. Do you have any suggestions for heavy products? The turnaround time. You go ahead, Greg.
I was going to say I ship 95% of my products by sea, so I wouldn't really worry about it. And yeah, the air shipments are typically metered by, or weight's the primary lever that affects the price, whereas ocean freight, the volume's the primary lever that affects the price. So heavy items, you almost always need to ship by ocean freight to make them profitable.
Angela asks, how accurate do the carton details, length, width, height, have to be in Seller Central and on the shipping carton? Can you correct in Seller Central once a shipping plan has been created? My recommendation is to get as close to accurate as possible when it comes to that. Your supplier should be able to provide you that information as detailed as possible. Reason being is that you're going to be charged on that weight. And so, if you're like overestimating, then it's possible that you might be overcharged. And so I don't know so I would just say, just get it as accurate as possible. You can go in and change this. But as I said, it's just a good practice to be as accurate as possible. Yeah. Angela asks, for FOB, Exactly what documents should be provided before I pay the balance? Is a draft bill of lading sufficient? Should I receive the telex release before or after the balance has been paid?
Typically, the telex release does not happen until after the balance has paid. The only exception here is if you have a really good relationship with your factory and you've probably been working with them for a long time. Well, they would still do the telex release even without it. So what the telex release is that's essentially saying that it's like, hey, freight forwarder, it's free to go ahead or you're free to go ahead and release these goods to the end customer because like we're settled up. So yeah, you're normally going to need to pay the balance and then they'll do the telex release.
Angela has the next question. For XWorks, exactly what documents should be provided before the balance is paid? What are the risks associated with XWorks compared to FOB?
It's essentially the same thing. So the difference between FOB and EXW, XWorks, is it's essentially, are you in charge of the shipping is the factory, this is an easy way to say it, is the factory in charge of getting your goods all the way to the port? Or are they only in charge of manufacturing your goods and putting it, out on their delivery dock to be picked up by the shipping company? Okay, so EXW is all they have to do is manufacture your goods and then put it out on their shipping dock. If it's FOB, that means it's up to them to get the goods to the port where they can then be loaded onto a boat. So that's really the only difference there. As far as risks, I mean, it's not really much different here, but it's like who has the liability at what point during the process. The factory they would be liable for the goods all the way until they got them to the port if it's FOB and just to the loading dock if it's EXW.
Dan asks, if I have a product that has the name of the brand printed on it, does that mean I cannot sell it, or can I? So you can sell existing products. This would be like retail arbitrage. But however, what you do need to keep in mind is that there are some restricted brands on Amazon's platform. So if the listing already exists, I would recommend going in and just double checking that. You can actually do that by looking up the barcode, if there is a barcode on the product itself, and you'll see if there is if there's a brand restriction. Seller Central is very good about identifying brands that can and cannot be sold. For example, you can't sell Adidas. If you wanted to sell like an Adidas product, I'm almost positive that they have a brand restriction for resellers and so on. Now that's one option. And now if it's just a product that's being manufactured in China and you're buying not so much, because sometimes there'll be branded products just for the sake of branding a product. And so those you shouldn't run into any problem whatsoever. The long-term problem is, of course, you probably with your next order, once you've sold out of those, you'll want to start putting your own branding on there.
All right. The next one, Angela asks, how do you work out how many units have been sold and paid for? Should the available inventory plus units sold / disposed of equal the number of units sent to Amazon? The available inventory plus units sold and disposed of equal the number sent to Amazon. Yes, it should. If it doesn't, what you can do is you can open up a claim with Amazon and saying like, hey, you lost these somewhere in the process. A few years ago, it was really important to do this. Today, they're actually pretty good about automatically doing that. And then I guess it's not only units sold or disposed of. I'm just going in my account real quick. It's also, I mean, you can see in there, let me share my screen. You can see in here like also how many are reserved. So it's like we have 389 of these available. You can see them all in there, but then we also have they're processing some, they're transferring some, and there's some that are waiting to be shipped out. So the sum of all of those, I guess, plus the units sold should be how many you've sent into Amazon.
Hey, I just joined. Did you answer the question I posted about the report of violation? A product is counterfeit. Yes, Greg went into great detail. I do want to add, for those of you that feel that your listing has been hijacked, I have noticed there's been a couple of comments in the Facebook groups. Typically, one thing you want to keep in mind is most of these hijackers, they don't really pose a major threat. They probably bought your product at a discount and they're trying to just sell it for a profit. And if they bought not many of your product, they bought maybe a handful or so. The goal here is one, you could just let them sell their products off. They're not going to pose a major threat. Two, I would say the second step in the process is send them a little bit of a scary letter. We actually, and I could drop the link. We have a letter that we've prepared for you to be able to send out, basically just outlining that you will be issuing a cease and desist if they continue to sell your product, since it is your brand. So I would say that those are the next steps, the first steps for someone that may have another seller that has maybe a few products in their listing. But other than that, Greg did a great detail.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll just say real quickly is go into brand registry and just see if your brand's listed right here. If it's not, then you have an issue with it showing up in brand registry and contact the support there. If it is showing up there, then I would probably make them aware of that when you're communicating about reporting it.
If I put NA and then change the brand later, will I have to create a new listing? How big of a hassle is it with Amazon to get it changed? It will not be that big of a hassle. Typically, this will be something that you can't do on their platform. So it will require some back and forth contacting seller support. Definitely that's the starting point. And they will direct you to, they have a team for like brand registered customers, and they'll be able to make the changes on the back end for you. They may require for you to send some additional details, but other than that, it shouldn't be too complex.
The other thing I've heard with that, the 5665 error message or whatever, is to put NA in the brand field, but then put your brand name in the manufacturer field, because there's two different fields there. It's like brand and manufacturer. And I've heard that by doing that, you can actually, like Amazon will actually end up putting the manufacturer as the brand because you put NA in the brand section. So you could give that a try as well.
That's a good workaround there. Angela asks, if a customer returns an item, does Amazon check it before putting it back in inventory? What happens if the item has been damaged by the customer or in transit or used by the customer? They do a spot check. It's not a thorough check. So 9 times out of 10, it will be categorized as not able to be resold. If the packaging has been open, anything like that, then definitely it will not be able to be resold. You have two options. You can either dispose of the product or you could have it sent back to you. And I would say that in 9 times out of 10, most people just choose to have it disposed of, just because you may not go out and resell it. Now, if you have a means to resell it, if you want to like put it back into pristine condition and send it back to Amazon, you can do that. Or you could just one option would be just list it on eBay and get rid of it that way. So you do have those two options when it comes to damaged goods.
Dan said, do you intend to have more detailed info inside of the Freedom Builder Bootcamp on all of the topics? Too many to list. We're happy, and our plan is to continually create new content for the Freedom Builder Bootcamp over time. It would be really helpful, though, to know from you all what else you would like additional content on. So you can list it right here in the chat box. I know Rolando is also going to be sending out a survey to get some more feedback from you so we can continuously be improving on this.
To add to that, Greg, once again, next week, I will have quote unquote office hours that will be a Zoom call. Essentially, I'm going to be dropping my calendar in the Facebook group, and it's going to be a 15-minute feedback session. It's exactly for this, to find out what areas are you struggling with, what can we create content around, and so definitely it will be worth your time. So just go in and reserve your spot. It's on a first come first serve basis, and I have a time frame for like the morning and the evening, so hopefully it could work with everyone's schedule.
Karina asks, what should we expect for the length of time for shipping from China today? You should expect 30 to 45 days to get the goods manufactured, and then you should expect about another month if it's being shipped via ocean freight. As far as I can tell, and also from what everyone else tells me, factories in China are back operating as normal. The supply chain might still be a little bit wonky, but it does seem like people are getting their goods shipped ocean freight in about a month, which is was typical kind of pre-COVID.
Rob asks, it shows I have two listings under the same ASIN, my normal listing and a stickerless one. Is there a way to transfer the available units to one listing and close one of them? You absolutely can. It's going to involve getting the seller support team in, and they could help you out in essentially moving over and transferring. They may, if hopefully your F&SKU is the same, and then it won't be that much of a problem. If not, they're going to have to relabel, and they'll charge you a fee for relabeling. So those are the kind of things that work out with seller support.
Yeah, hopefully they don't make you do a removal order. We'll just have to ask. Rob just said it was currently selling over $10,000 in sales with one product. Thank you guys so much. Dang, that's awesome, man. We love hearing success stories like that. Congratulations. I know it's never as easy as what sometimes people think. You're always going to hit road bumps along the way, and that's awesome. You persevered through all that. You're doing $10,000 in sales now. That's great.
And you, Rob, I see you. You're very active in the Facebook group. You're always on these live events. So I could tell that you're definitely after it. You're trying to consume as much information as possible. That's always the case. When it comes to learning in the early stages, it's very challenging. You don't know, you might not know anything about how to sell on Amazon when you're first getting started, but it just comes with repetition and being able to just push through, fight through the challenges. There's going to be bumps along the road. When we first launched this program, we didn't anticipate that COVID-19 would hit, and then so we had, I think, a couple other issues with tariffs, Chinese tariffs. But as you can imagine, as you can see, if you fight through and you persevere, these things kind of have now really, in certain ways, helped Amazon sellers to get more sales. So yeah, just fight through it.
Sandy said, I actually received my order this morning. Congrats to you as well, Sandy. That's great. She said, one box is damaged. I'm going to see if there's anything wrong with it. Do I need to open the other boxes before sending them into Amazon? This is totally up to you. I think a lot of people will choose to, especially on their first order, open them up, pull a few out to look at them or test them and make sure that they look as you expect and look good. But yeah, I mean, it's totally up to you. First order, I'd probably at least recommend spot checking some to make sure it's as expected.
All right. Looks like
Tabla said, hello, Greg. I want to ask for an operational question. I now have a product with a low unit price and a high profit, but I advertise it to him, which is completely at a loss. Do you have a different promotional ideas for products with low customer prices? Essentially, no. The tactics are still the same. It oftentimes is difficult to run PPC kind of profitably if your product is only selling for like $10, because even a 20% margin is only a couple bucks. And if the clicks for these cheaper products are usually a little bit less, but it's not like they're, only 5 cents a click or whatever. So I don't really have any other good kind of like tips for that. I would just say that's also why I usually prefer, and that we recommend at Freedom Builder Bootcamp, to go for something a little bit more expensive so that you have some more dollars to work with for advertising.
Elvis asks, everyone is asking all these advanced stuff. Well, it's awesome because they started from the very beginning, many of these people, and now they're getting advanced, moving along. Let me ask something basic. I'm just starting, and so while doing product research now, I'm inundated with so many COVID-related products like N95 masks and gloves. These make product research a little daunting, and I can't seem to find any beginner items to consider tracking. Your thoughts? My first suggestion, Elvis, is take advantage of the filters to exclude certain keywords in your search. So that would be very helpful in eliminating a lot of those that pop up. I would definitely stay away from selling anything COVID-19 related for the time being. And then you'll notice that as you go further, dig deeper, then you'll start to find products. It's going to, yes, it's a big market right now, so that's why you're having this challenge of it just appearing it's one of the top sellers right now. But yes, if you just continue scrolling like to the next pages, you'll start to find those little hidden gems. Anything you want to add to that, Greg?
No, I think that overall that's good. It's the way that the product was created is to be able to find these products that are in high demand with low competition. So essentially it's working. It's just we're in a little bit of a curveball because a global pandemic hit. And the result of that is a lot of items that it's hard to know whether or not they're going to stop selling well soon or continue to sell well for a long time type of thing. So it's, but yeah, I mean, it's don't get discouraged. It's going to take some time to kind of filter through the different items there.
I'd also add to that, you could reverse engineer the process a bit as well. One thing that you could do, you've put in your parameters with your filters when you're doing your product research, you've excluded certain keywords. So now you've narrowed your search down. In addition to that, I would actually start from knowing that these are within your range. I would start backwards to forwards. In other words, you're probably looking at like the most profitable products first and then going down that list. And so, yes, it's going to be a couple of pages, but why not start at the least profitable within your parameters and work your way that way by just adjusting the columns. If you go up top, you can adjust your columns from A to Z or Z to A kind of format.
All right. Rob said, a customer left a bad review, but it's based off shipping and handling, and my product's FBA. How do I get this review removed? You can try clicking the little like report a review button and explain that. You can also reach out to Seller Central. It's really frustrating, but they're probably not going to remove it. But this is one of the few cases that have seen reviews get removed in the past for. So you can give it a try, but don't hold your breath over it. Nikita said, Niche Hunter's not working recently. Is everything okay? I don't know for sure. I'm going to have to dig into that a little bit more. It appears to be working for me. I do know the plan overall at Jungle Scout was to deprecate the Niche Hunter because Opportunity Finder is kind of like Niche Hunter 2.0. It surfaces all of the same types of niches, but does so in a little bit like better and more accurate way. And that's where a lot of like the future development is going to be going as well. So I'm not quite sure what's up with Niche Hunter, but I do always recommend for people to use Opportunity Finder now instead.
Andy asks, if looking into bundling two products, is there a better way than shipping both products to yourself and packaging? Absolutely, Andy. You should be able to. So it sounds like they're two different suppliers. Typically, ideally, goal number one is that the supplier has multiple products and they could bundle it for you. And so you don't even have to look outside of your current supplier. Option two would be that you found two really good suppliers. They're two totally different fields, but the product combined works well, and that's why you're trying to bundle it. You could have one supplier ship the product to the other supplier, and they will be able to prepare and package it all as one bundle. So that would be my suggestion, is having it all done where, if you're getting if your suppliers in China, having it all done in China, because the cost will be far less than you having to have it packaged here and just bundling your products together.
All right. The next one.
Rob's asking for advanced PPC. Rob, what's awesome is that right now we're in the works of creating an advanced PPC. That's like the top priority, because we know that is a topic that everybody is looking into now, since everybody's at that phase. So we're actually in the process of filming some advanced PPC content.
Dan said, how can I get into the Competitive Edge Facebook group? It's asking me for a password in my email, and I don't have that email. Rolando, do you know this one?
Yeah. Dan, let me do it right now. Go ahead and request. I'll add you. I'll let Greg take.
Angela said, if you add additional content to the bootcamp, do you let us know, or do we have to keep checking each of the modules for new material? Rolando, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe whenever there's a new module or video uploaded, the platform like automatically sends out an email, right?
Correct. We'll notify whenever there is any new content going up or any events happening. You'll receive an email with instructions on where it can be located. So yeah, so you make sure, if you've been receiving the email updates for these Facebook Live events, then you're currently subscribed to that. And if not, then just send a request over to support@freedombuilderbootcamp.com to be added to the email list for Freedom Builder Bootcamp. But most everyone should be here unless you opted out to not be subscribed to that email list.
Tabla said, the first product I'm looking at, I started to sell on Amazon, but I cannot guarantee it will make money. I opened up PPC ads and promotions, and the data is not particularly good. What else do I need to do to understand that it's suitable for this market? Any suggestions? Keep in mind that optimizing your sponsored products, it typically takes a few months to like really optimize it and get to these good ACoS levels. So I don't know how long it's been up there, but the way you phrased it feels like it's only been there for a shorter period of time. So I wouldn't get discouraged on that yet. Yeah, I think that's the kind of the 80-20 rule right now for probably improving the sales for it. Are tariffs calculated?
Right, Dan,
Good.
You go for it. I was just going to say, I was going to follow up to Dan's request about being added to the FBA Competitive Edge group. I don't see your request. If you could go in and once again submit a request, I can add you to that group.
Andy said, are the tariffs calculated in the quote from the freight forwarder? Typically not, but you can specifically ask them and they can quote that for you. So it just depends on your freight forwarder, but just clarify that with them.
Ablis asks, I optimize my product, but this is not the root cause. The unit price of my product is low and I don't have a profit for about 3 clicks on PPC ads, which is very troublesome for me. So it looks like a follow-up.
Kind of like what I was saying with the last one there. I think you need to continue to optimize your PPC with this because, I mean, okay, so you said like I optimize my products, that's not the root cause. I mean, one is hopefully you have like enough reviews for it, because if you only have a handful of reviews, that usually hurts your conversion rate pretty bad. Assuming you do, and you do have like a well-optimized listing, I think you need to be continuing to think about optimizing your PPC ads, because it sounds like the ones that you have are just too expensive to make it profitable. So you could either be thinking about longer term or longer tail terms, just reducing your bids and seeing if you get impressions, say later in the day. Yeah, I think those are the items.
Kennedy asks, up to which module should I watch before placing my first order? Currently on module 4. Awesome, good for you, Kennedy, that you're going through the modules and you're not module 4. My recommendation always is to follow along as Greg implement the recommendations Greg is making and just follow along as he's doing this. So when he's in the phase where he's creating a listing, create the listing. When or prior to that, where he's out looking for suppliers, just go out and start reaching out to suppliers and then start solidifying. So just follow along. That would be the best method, because as you can imagine, 10 modules, and within each module, there's so many lessons that you're going to eventually start to forget some steps and some actions to take. And it's just best to just follow along all the way. And by the end, you will have a product launch. We have several members in our group that can attest to this. So it's just it's good to hear.
Rob said, my supplier is delaying the production time by 20 days, which might cause me to be out of stock. What's the best way to recuperate the loss? What I like to do, if you use kind of the agreement that we gave in the Freedom Builder Bootcamp, it talks about for, I forget the exact time period that was in that agreement, but for example, for every day or every week that it's late, you get a 5% discount or something along those lines. And that's kind of the idea behind it, is to give them essentially repercussions for not shipping out on time, or like kind of when they quoted you. So that's the best way to go about doing it. If you don't have that in your agreement with them, it's unlikely that you'll be able to get any kind of money back from it. Yeah.
All right, Sophie. Hi, Greg. Hi, Rolando. I'm new to the group. Welcome, Sophie. First day here today. Awesome. My question, the supplier, I have ordered a customized product sample, which seems to not have experience with customized packaging, although this option is on their Alibaba page. The customized product looks beautiful on the photos they sent me, and it has shipped today for me to evaluate it. I want to have the packaging customized too, but not sure that it is going to work out with the supplier. What can I do? I was thinking of perhaps finding a supplier on Alibaba who specializes in packaging, and then have them send the packaging over the manufacturer. Would that be an option? Would love your input. Thank you. So to me, what I gather from this is the supplier, because they can't do customized packaging, one of two things. It is possible that they just don't have the capacity or the ability to do it. However, they may not be a manufacturer per se. They may be a trade agency, and so I would be cautious with that. That may be the one option. If they are, in fact, if you could vet that they are a supplier and they just don't have the ability to do that, then that is one option, to send it off to a company that can repackage it for you. However, just always keep in mind when you're doing your product research, if there is another supplier that could do this at a cheaper cost and still a quality product, you always want to go that route, because sending it off somewhere else is just going to there's just going to create so much more possibilities for errors and mistakes and faulty products or faulty packaging or whatever the case may be. So it is a danger to have more steps in your supply chain. The ideal thing is that you stick with a supplier that can do everything that you request. So it's possible that you might want to reach out to just a few other suppliers just to see if anyone in this space could do what you're looking for.
All right. Andy said, it's dog toothpaste. Is this simple or hard to approve? I don't know where to start, to be honest. So for that, I'll be looking at the factory, whoever makes it, and ask them if they have FDA approval. I imagine they will. I don't know where for sure you're sourcing this from. Typically on items like this, like toiletries or cosmetics, most people will source them like in the US or sometimes Europe. It's not as common to source products like that from China. But yeah, just reach out and ask your factory if they have FDA approval and then go from there.
Angela asks, if selling private labels, should you receive the buy box 100% of the time? I have had my buy box wins in Seller Central drop to around 60%. Why does that happen, and does it matter? Yes, Angela, as a private label product, you in essence own the buy box. What's possible, if you look on your listing, there may have been someone that your listing may be hijacked, and it's not a term to be afraid of. They probably bought your product at a lower price. Maybe you had it deeply discounted at one time and then you raised your price, and they took advantage of the lower price, and now they're trying to sell it off of your listing. And so that's probably why you're not winning the buy box. So I would just double check. You can actually see when you go and, where you could like add to cart, and it'll say there's a little section that says sellers. And if it's not just your brand that's there and you see like others that can sell it, then you know that your listing has been hijacked. And like I said, in most cases, it's nothing to be alarmed. They probably bought just a few units, let them sell them off, and then you just continue on with. Now, if it continues to be a problem, and if for whatever reason they're selling a product that isn't your product on your listing, the first thing I would do is buy the product, see what it is. If it's your product, then you're probably fine. But if it's a product that does not at all match your product, then that is cause for concern. And then you want to start taking the steps of, okay, I'm going to send them a threatening letter that if they continue to sell, that I will, issue a cease and desist through my attorney. Even if you don't have an attorney, you just want to make it sound like you have an attorney. And then you could also go the route of reporting them on Amazon. So that would be your options at this time.
All right.
All right. So now we've got.
Andy said, "You guys are awesome. So grateful. We're moving with COVID. Union went on strike, but nothing but roadblocks for me. And you guys are showing me the light at the end of the tunnel." Thank you, Andy. I appreciate you tuning in, and thanks for the kind words.
Awesome. Thank
Rob
you,
said,
Andy.
"I got a few units sent to my private address, and some of them got damaged in transit. What's the best precaution to prevent this from happening?" There's really nothing you can do to get Amazon to change the way that they're going to package your item. So the only way that you can kind of make improvements is by changing your packaging. Okay, so just assume that it's going to be packed poorly, and that the drivers are going to be real tough with it, and it's going to get kind of like beat up a little bit, because that's really all you can do. So yeah, just think about those different ways that you can package or protect your particular packaging.
Dan asks, if I want to sell a product that's doing very well, like Dial hand soap, because it's a brand name, how can I do that? You definitely can sell. Earlier we talked about you can sell brands. It's somewhat of like a retail arbitrage method that you're trying to do, or wholesaling. Now, the first step is I always recommend download and install like the Seller Central app, because it's a really good tool to just go and scan items and scan barcodes, and it'll tell you if it's a restricted item or not. If it's not a restricted item, then you could sell it. And all you would do in that case is you would go through the process of using their existing listing, whatever listing is already created for it, and you would create a shipping plan with how many you're going to be sending in, and so on and so forth. And you're just going to have them shipped to Amazon. They're going to give you the shipping labels, and you ship it to Amazon's fulfillment centers. It's definitely a possibility to do this, and it's not against Amazon's terms of service. Like I said, the most important thing, just make sure the product is not restricted, brand restricted. All right, Susan asks, since they finished the production on time, but the inspection failed and my contract has the 7 days, 5%, they will be 1 month late in shipping because of fixing the steel issue. Do I ask for the 5% each week? One thing, Greg mentioned this previously, is it's very difficult to enforce these contracts that we create. We do it just so that suppliers know that we're serious and that we understand this whole Amazon FBA process. But think about it, it's very hard to enforce in countries like China any contracts. My suggestion is you want to maintain good rapport with your supplier. At the end of the day, it's going to be a long-term relationship, and these types of discounts that we could ask up front, we can ask later down the road, and just say, hey, I'm selling this much quantity. I have to get more. Can you give me a discount, a reduced price for a bigger quantity? So I would just say, to preserve the rapport with your supplier, it's not essential to enforce the contract, but I would just I would bring it up so that way they don't slow down the process for you. In the days of COVID, it's going to be almost impossible for things to run on schedule on time. So that we got to give them a little bit of a leeway as well when it comes to that. All right, and then we have Calvin's question is next. Is there any way we could get a one-on-one evaluation of our listing from a Jungle Scout member? This could help us with any gaps we may have that are missing from our listing. As a Freedom Builder Bootcamp member, part of it was that you do have one listing review that you're eligible. What you would do is you would contact support at support at freedombuilderbootcamp.com and let them know that your listing is ready for a review. I do know that right now, unfortunately, our team is really swamped, but we will definitely get to it, and it will be reviewed for you. As long as, of course, you want to provide the keywords, you'll want to provide as much information up front, the listing, so that it can be done effectively. All right. Angela, love these live Q&As. Thank you so much. Dan says, Ro, my request is in the FB page. Okay, so I'll go ahead and check that out momentarily.
Kelvin said, if you run out of stock, what is the best option to handle this dilemma? There's not really too much you can do it. I mean, if you think you're going to run out of stock, you can do things like increase the price and or decrease PPC spend, and that will slow your sales velocity down. But if you've run out of stock at this point, there's not too much you can do about it. Once you get back in stock, your listing might not be ranked as high as it was before you went out of stock, but you can usually recapture that. Maybe you have to go a little bit more aggressive on the PPC for a few days, but it's usually not that big of a deal.
All right, Dan, I got you. You're all set. You should be in there now. Susan says, thank you all. Thank you for the information. Oh, go ahead. Actually, yeah, go ahead.
Dan said, I noticed while running the Jungle Scout app on a product page that sometimes it doesn't list the seller. What does this mean? It typically means that there's not a seller controlling the buy box, and instead you have to click into the offers. So it's like there's not any individual seller kind of controlling it, but it's either out of stock or just you have to go to the offers page to view the different offers.
Susan says, thank you all for the information. Very helpful. How do we sign up for the Zoom? I guess that's a good way to end this, right? We're at the end of the questions. And as I mentioned early on when we first got started, I will be dropping a link to my calendar in the Facebook group. You could see it shortly after this live event, essentially inviting you, and it's going to be in 15-minute increments to be able to schedule some time with me. I'll jump on a Zoom call with you. Just want to get your feedback on this, the course overall, and see how we could better help you. So definitely, you'll see that momentarily in the Facebook group, and I'll mark it as an announcement so that you don't miss it.
Cool. And with that being said, we will go ahead and wrap up this live Q&A session. Thank you all very much for your questions. I know that I enjoyed it. Rolando, it is always good chatting with you, and I'll see you all next time.
Take care, Freedom Builders, and keep crushing it.